Right, everybody. So we have a Super Clásico, or actually a Clásico, I should say. Super Clásico is either Brazil, Argentina, or Boca against River, depending who you call. So we actually have El Clásico coming up. I'm very excited for this one. I mean, I have to say, obviously, as a Barca fan, I have to put that out there. It's something that we very much look forward to, just as we know that the Real Madrid fans are as well. And what we tend to see in Spain, or what I've obviously seen, especially in the new format, which exists since basically 2019, is that the last five finals were basically Barca and Madrid. That does show that duopoly that everyone really says exists in Spain. But what we could really be doing is also exploring how both teams might line up tomorrow, what kind of mood both teams are in, what's going on behind the scenes, sort of explored a bit more in detail so we can put the pieces together for you. It's a very exciting final, and I actually remember last year, so January last year in the Super Cup, it was actually it was a game that ended 5-2. Barca actually playing with one player less for when Chesney got the red card. I can't remember. I think it was like the 60th minute, but they were leading 5-1 at that point. Then Rodrigo got a goal back. But basically, what we're dealing with here is the decider, or it will set the tone and the pace. And the sort of trend for the season to come. Obviously, in Spain, the Super Cup it's a very big tournament. Obviously, we know that the Community Shield in England or the Super Cup in Germany, it's maybe not the same, but in Spain, it really is a big deal because it's played by arguably two of the greatest footballing institutions. So if we now go look at the last game that Barca played, as we can see here, what was very interesting is, for once, I can say, obviously beating Bilbao 5-0, Bilbao playing without Iñaki Williams on the left side. I think he's still carrying a knock in the pelvis area. It was just a shame not to see him, because you'd love to see Iñaki Williams play these kind of games. But what is really interesting here is to see how Fermin Lopez has cemented his place even more so in that system that Flick likes to play. So obviously we like to see here is a 4-2-3-1. It's very flexible. Obviously what happens is when we're attacking, Balde goes high and Koundé kind of stays back to make this a 3. But then of course when we attack on the right side, usually with Lamine instead of Rooney, Bardakje, then also Koundé gives him the overlap. So very attacking wing backs here, but mostly the attacking wing play coming from Balde. But what's very interesting is we can see the rating of 9.3. That's a stellar rating, truly is from Fermin Lopez. And what we see here is that we actually have an overbooking in the midfield, Barcelona. So usually, as you can see, for this 3, so Flick will always want to play with 3 in the midfield. We have playing now Pedri and De Jong, even though Eric Garcia was covering in that central, the defensive midfield position. So basically what we see is we have Pedri, De Jong, and then we have Fermin, and usually this position here from Fermin would be covered either by Gavi or by Dani Olmo. Obviously Gavi being injured after massive operation since October. He'll be coming back early February, but it's very interesting to see that Fermin has cemented himself in that place. And we're not even mentioning in the midfield Marc Bernal or Casado, who right now are struggling to get minutes for different reasons we can get into. But it was very interesting to see Fermin again carrying on his scoring form. He's in fine form. Also was really important in the derby against Espanyol in the league. So he got 2 assists and a goal, and he was just really crucial, just as was Rafinha, and very happy for Rooney to have played so well. Rooney is not getting a lot of time. He started the season playing a lot of games, and especially during Lamine's injury phase, but then he was kind of phased out, and now whenever he plays, he scored against Betis a few weeks ago in that 5-3 victory in Andalusia, and now he is basically got a chance to play. Obviously we expect in the final for Lamine to be playing, but this right here is the as we can see here, is really the lineup that we will be seeing from Barcelona. Minus, of course, here we would see the change of Lamine coming in for Rooney here, who's doing an excellent job, an absolute bargain at just 1.5 million. Excellent work by the sporting director to get Deco and the whole planning committee. And what we'll be seeing now as well is that Eric Garcia is going back to his more natural position in the center back role. Obviously, we're still without a left-footed left center back, but there seems to be a very solid team coming, sort of building up here. And obviously Ferran, obviously we have a great situation, Ferran or Lewandowski. Obviously Lewandowski is better at the hold-up play, whereas Ferran is more explosive and is also great at pressing the lines from the opposing team. He's very good at running here and here. So what we can imagine for Barcelona's lineup tomorrow would be that it would be this, with Lamine coming in for Rooney, and or Bardakji as we want to call him, and that would basically be the form, keeping that sort of shape 4-2-3-1, with obviously Pedri as a metronome in midfield. De Jong being asked a lot more of his defensive abilities, which is obviously something people always debate. Is he a number 6 or a number 8? I think under Flick he has massively improved, but with Garcia not playing that role, or Bernal not there, or Casado not there, it really is up to him to cover that space when Pedri goes forward as well. So it's very exciting to see that. So we'll definitely be seeing a Barcelona who's hungry for it. Obviously, if we go and look at Barcelona's last results, no, sorry, one moment. So we look at their last results here. If we go under their matches, this is their overall form. They won the last 5 games, but they're actually now 9 games unbeaten, and the last 5 games they've played to 0. Of course, we did play in the league against Guadalajara, and they are a 3rd division team, so that is probably something to consider. But something that's really been an issue for Barcelona has been their defense. We've really been struggling without Inigo Martinez. That is something to cover his left back position here. But it's obviously something that's very exciting for us to consider now, to have 5 games where we have kept a clean sheet. And if we now go more to Real Madrid, as we can see here, obviously they have been struggling. I think it's been a difficult season for them, but obviously it's Real Madrid, and they can go from a struggling season to go and win the Champions League. So I think really there is nothing here that should surprise us about Real Madrid. They're incredibly great at showing up when it matters, and they now do have a run of 5 wins in a row against rather formidable teams, against Andalusian teams, as we can see here, but also against Atletico Madrid. And I think this is the one we want to focus on. How did they line up there? Real Madrid also playing with many injuries. I think that's what's really important to note as well with Real Madrid is, well, in the last Clásico in October, actually Barcelona had many injuries there, and it kind of just felt that it wasn't a Clásico on par, where both teams were sort of with their best players. Madrid obviously with less injuries back then, and one would really have to say for tomorrow, in all fairness to Real Madrid, that they obviously have far more injuries. They even ended up with a makeshift center defense of I think it was Tchouaméni and Carreras, the left back, playing as left center back. Obviously we can see here Rudiger and Asensio getting injured in that games, and Valverde of course coming clutch player, wonderful strike, playing in that right back position. It seems that they're playing for the manager, Real Madrid. They really are. Xabi Alonso's job was obviously on the line after those defeats to Man City, after the defeats at home to Celta Vigo. It really felt like he could have been let go, but they're sticking with Xabi Alonso, and it looks like the players are fighting for him. What one also has to say is that there's a lot of noise around Vinicius at the moment. Obviously he's getting booed. He's been booed in the last 2 games in the Bernabeu, so on home ground. And what I think honestly is wonderful to see, that Madrid is actually trusting in their youth academy. This guy here, Gonzalo Garcia, we remember him from the Club World Cup. Excellent player, knows how to get into space, very physically strong for his young age as well. I think he was 20 in the summer, now he's 21, and whenever he plays he really gets a goal. So he got 4 goals in the Club World Cup, and he got 3 goals against Betis after Mbappe's injury, which brings us to the next incognito. We can confirm that Mbappe has actually traveled to Jeddah. Obviously this game taking place on Saudi Arabian soil, very lucrative business for the Spanish Football Association there. He has traveled for the game. We do not know if he'll be playing from the start or not, but what we do know is that with Gonzalo they have a great player who's willing to shine in that moment. Obviously with Endrick now not getting the playing time that he was promised, obviously the Brazilian the Brazilian striker with great projection, With him being gone, basically the only substitute striker they have is Gonzalo Garcia, and he's really coming up clutch. And we always talk about the differences between La Fábrica, which is obviously the youth academy from Madrid, how it's called, and La Masia, which is the one from Barcelona, the one that we Barca fans are so proud of. I think studies have actually shown that in the top 5 leagues, and especially the Spanish league, it's actually the Real Madrid academy that gives the most players. I think it's about 150 that came from the Madrid academy to 140 from Barcelona. The only difference is why we hear more from the Barcelona one is obviously the DNA and the methodology behind it, and that romanticism we have with Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets, and Messi, and Fabregas, and Puyol, and Piqué, and Valdés, and Lamine, and Gavi, and Cubarsí, and all those, is that we actually, through financial situations, or also the belief and the credo that we have, is to use those players more. But don't make the mistake of thinking Madrid do not have a youth academy, because they have a very good one. Let's not forget Carreras is from there, Asensio is from there. Valverde came when he was very young. Gonzalo is from there. They do have a very strong academy with a lot of players that they then make a lot of business of also selling. And here we can just sort of see the bench of both teams. I think we can also talk about Atletico Madrid. Julian Alvarez really struggling. I think we're starting. As an Argentinian, I love him. He's excellent. He's the one that Barca wants. He's just a great player, great at pressing. He's one of the best strikers in the world for me, but he's not finding his form with Madrid. I think we're starting to see a similar situation with Joao Felix, where he struggled under Simeone's system. It's a very rigid 4-4-2, and they sort of played him here as a second striker to Sorloth, who always comes up clutch against Madrid and Barcelona. But it was obviously a midfield here with a lot of muscle, with both Koke and Gallagher. With Baena adding the creative spark, coming into that left attacking midfield role, sort of in that inverted role. Great player from Villarreal previously. Been following him a lot, and it's just not clicking. They had to sort of translated their league form, which has been patchy, Atletico Madrid, into this game. Obviously, they sit fourth. It's been a bit patchy for them lately, but I have to say that they did actually warrant to win that game. They just didn't take the chances. And that's the story of Madrid. When everyone thinks they're in a crisis, bam, they're in the final of the Super Cup. Now they're one game away from winning such an important trophy, which in Spain it is. So if we now go back to the game for tomorrow, here are sort of the predicted lineups. As mentioned, I don't think Olmo will be playing. I think Fermin has sort of deserved his place to start. Hansi Flick obviously saying that this is the most in form that he feels Barcelona has been. We start off the season very patchy. And we also have to mention how important Joan Garcia has been. My gosh, what a performance against his old team in Espanyol. Very difficult circumstances for me. One of the top 3 goalkeepers in the world right now. And one of the other ones is obviously Thibaut Courtois, who obviously now at 33 years of age is going just as strong as he always has done. And it might be that Madrid then will have to sort of have an impromptu centre-back positioning. A lot of the focus in Madrid has been on giving the impetus to Barcelona, that the favourites really are Barcelona for this game. I would say there is no, when it comes to Clásico, when it comes to these games, there is no how should I say, maybe I say this as a Barca fan, but there is no sort of, form that should matter. It's a one-off game. It's a final. It's in a neutral territory, although from what we remember last year, there's a few more Real Madrid fans in Saudi Arabia that come up. But what we can really see is that Barcelona now have less injuries than Real Madrid, so they'll have a stronger squad as well. But we cannot make the mistake of thinking that this will be, that we are favorites in any shape, way, or form. Because actually, yes, we come with a 9-game sort of winning run. Real Madrid now have 5, and they've just beaten their biggest city rivals, which is Atletico Madrid. Simeone's Atletico Madrid. So I think it's crucial that we don't underestimate as Barca Real Madrid. So we'll definitely be seeing Vinicius starting on the left, Rodrigo on the right, Bellingham starting to play great again last 2 roles. The question with him is always, does he play more in that 8 role or that 10 role? Sometimes he's a second striker, sometimes he's a defensive midfielder. But the fact is just when Bellingham is on his game, he's one of the most I think one of the strongest players, and he really comes up clutch in those situations. And then a lot of muscle with Chouameni and Camavinga, although we might see Chouameni going into a centre back position if Huijsen is coming back in. Sorry, Hausen is coming back to play. So basically, we see a lot of options here how this game might turn out. And what's very interesting is also, I imagine this must be the average age. Obviously, Barca very young, but Real Madrid also a very young team. And then I can imagine, I think it does go to extra time. So the semifinals didn't go to extra time, but the finals probably will go to extra time. And if that happens, then the bench will be crucial as well. So when we start to consider a bit about the benches there, Madrid have a few players that they could bring on, obviously to change the game. Obviously, we don't know if Mbappe will be playing or if Gonzalo will be playing, but it's very interesting. And with Barcelona, a lot of their strength now comes in basically, finally, I think for the first time, honestly, since I've been following them since like 2006, I think it's the first time it's the strongest bench we have. Barcelona's always been known for having a very strong 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players, but never having a greater depth. I think Real Madrid has always, of course, had great teams, but they've always had great depth as well. Or even had those players that always come up when they need it, like Joselu in the last Champions League victories. They had Barcelona, for example, instead of Ferran, they might have Lewandowski. Instead of Lamine, they have Rooney now, who's playing really well. And instead of Olmo, they have Fermin. Obviously, Fermin will probably be starting. And then in midfield, we have midfielders. Instead of De Jong and Pedri, we have obviously Bernal, we have Casado. We have Gavi, who's obviously out injured, and we even have Eddie Garcia who can play there. So it's a total overbooking. We're totally understaffed in the center back position. Obviously, Christensen now out for a long time, meaning that we were able with La Liga to confirm that we can now follow financial fair play and basically loan a player. We're going to get Cancelo, who obviously is more of a wing back. He loves Barca. He wanted to come back. He was unhappy at Al Hilal. He's finally coming back to Barcelona. He'll obviously be able to give Koundé a bit more of a rest and potentially let Koundé come more into this space here. Eric Garcia is a Swiss Army knife, as we call him, been playing every position. And Kubarsi obviously plays every game. And it's now interesting to see that tomorrow might be the first time that Flick uses the 11 that is being set in Catalan media he'll be using, which will obviously be Fermin here, and that would then be the team Fermin instead of Olmo. So it's very interesting. Barcelona will really be eager to capitalize on their momentum, but let's not forget that Madrid has a lot of momentum as well. Let's also not forget that in this, it's also interesting to see the countries there, that many more Spanish players in Barcelona. Obviously, that's a work of La Masia right there, but many of the last seasons have been dictated. I think the last 5 winners of the Super Cup have gone on to win the Spanish league. And I could feel that last year just how important it was for Flick to build momentum after a very difficult November and December for Flick in 2024 to then come to Saudi Arabia, win 5-2 in the final. It just basically was a springboard from which Barcelona then used to basically almost win the treble last year. We were 2 minutes away from the Champions League final. Incredible. But it's a very exciting game tomorrow, and I truly believe it's going to be one that I would recommend anyone to watch. And yeah, I'd be really interested to hear what you think, so let me know in the comments or get in touch with me how you think the game's going to go and how you think that the different sort of momentums and trends from both teams going into this game are going to go. Thank you so much for watching Planeta Joachim and listening to me.